We'll be looking at self-care and different aspects of self-care. So with each question or contemplation throughout the meditation, feel free to write down anything that is being invoked for you and that you might want to visit later. Because this subject has lots of different aspects, it's going to go, somewhat fast. So which is why you might want to write things down. You may not feel like you have enough time to sort of like explore and sort of feel the full depth of whatever it is that you might be looking at. So uh, it might be useful to have a piece of paper and a pen. So starting by establishing the posture in the body, releasing tensions in the body, and establishing an upright posture, releasing tensions in the mind, and establishing awareness, coming back to the breath. And exploring the posture a little bit, establish the core of the posture, the ease and uprightness of the posture. Send your knees away from your hips to establish some activity in the leg to support the perineal floor and the lower abdomen, allowing for width and hollowness in the abdomen that in turn supports the spine and the movement in the front of the spine upwards. Let the chest open without jutting forward, without puffing the chest, and let your shoulder blades drop down the back. See if the dropping of the shoulders down into the back allows the spine between the shoulder blades to further move up, emphasizing that movement. Releasing the neck, softening the throat. So another hollow place is in the throat. Dropping the chin ever so slightly to elongate the back of the neck so the head isn't thrown back. The eyes are soft. Again, the idea of hollowing the eyes. They're soft and receding back towards the back of the skull, not reaching out to anything, whether the eyes are open or closed. Having established this space, the mind will now naturally want to occupy it. The mind will take over this space with planning, rehashing, fantasizing, indulging. When you notice that the mind has slipped into daydreaming, has invaded this space with one or maybe more things rather than full equanimity in that space, notice what happens to your body, especially to the relationship of the neck and the head. And when you realize that you've slipped away from the space. The mind has invaded with other things. You come back to yourself and note how you came back to yourself. Note it in your body. So just noting what happens in the body when the mind, something in the mind takes over the space. What happens in the body when you reestablish the space. And if by chance for you there has not been that slipping of the mind, you have maintained the space constantly, then for a moment invite the mind to take over, to indulge, to fantasize, to daydream, so that you can take note of what happens when you switch in and out of what we might call daydreaming and back to creating space. This reestablishing of the space of the body, the space of the mind, this is shamatha, the calming, the stopping of the habitual mind. So we want to be able to study it from different aspects and see different ways in which shamatha happens. How do I take care of myself? What are the tools, the tricks, the methods of self-care that I practice? And if you like, you can write down practices or habits that you use for self-care to be examined later. And we'll start looking at different aspects, play with different ideas about self-care, looking at self-care as a container that allows for the spacious mind in me to arise. Looking at self-care as both handling negative responses, encounters or disappointments, etc., and also as precepts that allow the mind to open, ways to release violence, greed, and attachment. Looking at self-care as abstaining, contemplating the fourth contemplation on food. May I eat only foods that nourish me and prevent illness. And extending this thought to all foods, edible foods, the foods of interactions, of thoughts, of actions. and examining the integrity of my self-care. Do I meet adversity with self-care, and how? Do I avoid adversity or difficulties using self-care? Do I use self-care strategies that avoid reality or that enforce habitual patterns of my mind? Is self-care a discipline? And if so, what is that discipline? Is it certain actions or thoughts? Is it a training? Or perhaps self-care is an indulgence? Or there may be lots of other ways to look at self-care, both as discipline and not. Looking at self-discipline, self-care as a discipline that allows for freedom, like mindful eating, mindful consumption, meditation, etc. Looking at self-care as protection, protection from my habits, and looking at self-care as medicine when I'm depleted is building up reserves. Looking at the familiar phrase of put your oxygen mask on before helping others. I cannot be of help if I have needs that are overwhelming. I must take care of myself in order to be able to take care of others. But then also looking at self-care as expanding this me. Self-care as taking care of others. Taking care of all as taking care of me. Looking at self-care as equanimity, as letting go, and also looking at equanimity and letting go as providing, as facilitating self-care. taking care of myself, coming back to myself, just like coming back to my posture, just like shamatha, stopping the habitual mind. I come back to myself, sitting in softness, openness, creating space, connecting with all that is.